In the quiet expanse of San Angelo, Texas, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the sky swallows everything beneath it, a dark story shattered the illusion of serene life and thrust an ordinary family into the spotlight of a true crime mystery. Truth can be stranger than fiction, and sometimes far more tragic. A woman whose life was the embodiment of success and ambition, Wendy Mae Davidson, was a young, respected veterinarian, intelligent and devoted to animal care. By her side, Michael Severance, a dedicated airman, was serving his country and dreaming of a future filled with love of the family he was building with Wendy. But beneath this idyllic life, secrets and twisted truths were about to erupt into a horror story. When Michael Severance mysteriously vanished in January 2005, the search for answers began. The investigation into his disappearance would lead to a shocking conclusion. Wendy, bright and ambitious, had built a life that many would envy. Driven and compassionate, she was not only a professional who had earned the respect of her peers, but also a woman who had found love with Michael. Yet beneath the surface of their perfect life, currents of discontent began to appear. Wendy, despite her successes, harbored ambitions that strained the fabric of her personal life. Her marriage to Michael, while initially filled with hope and affection, soon became the ground for a psychological battlefield, where control and freedom clashed silently. Michael, a man of honor and integrity, found himself enmeshed in a relationship that, over time, began to show cracks. His dedication to his country and his desire to build a family with Wendy were noble aspirations. However, these dreams would soon come into conflict with a reality much grimmer than anyone could have anticipated. Michael, originally from Maine, joined the Air Force and eventually rose to the rank of Staff Sergeant after serving 5 tours in the Middle East. His military career brought him to West Texas, where he was stationed at Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene. Michael was the outdoorsy type. He enjoyed fishing, hunting, skiing, and cross-country. He was known as a good man who always put others first. When he was 13, his mother died. Being heartbroken himself, he supported his younger brother, who was 11 at the time. Wendy, who grew up on a ranch just outside San Angelo, was a happy child. She decided to become a veterinarian at the age of 7. She worked hard and was driven to success. Wendy was an outgoing person, but also very responsible. While she was still a high school student, she volunteered at a local veterinary clinic. She pursued her education at Texas A&M, one of the toughest veterinary schools. It was during her college years that she gave birth to her first son, before earning her degree in veterinary medicine. After graduating, Wendy returned to San Angelo to work at the Advanced Animal Care Clinic on Sherwood Way. Later, she started her own clinic. In 2003, at the age of 24, Michael and Wendy's paths crossed in San Angelo, and they immediately hit it off. Their relationship quickly blossomed, leading to the birth of their first child together and marriage by September 2004. They settled into an apartment located at the back of Wendy's veterinary clinic. Their life in San Angelo, Texas, was supposed to be a fresh start. But as the pressures mounted, the cracks widened, leading to an eerie tragedy. Wendy's family didn't like Michael. Her mother thought he wasn't good enough for her daughter. She thought Michael was rude and obnoxious. Their apartment was way too small for 4 people, and they didn't feel comfortable there. Wendy, a young mother of 2, was trying to balance her practice with family life, a task that proved quite stressful. Michael said to his friend that his marriage was rocky and he was thinking about getting out. One day, Wendy and Michael had an argument. Wendy shouted at him. In response, Michael took their son and drove to Abilene. He didn't say anything to Wendy about this. When she discovered their disappearance, she tried calling her husband, but he didn't answer the phone. When he returned, Wendy was really angry and insisted he should not take the child without notifying her. However, Michael replied that he had every right to take his son wherever he wished. The dawn of 2005 in San Angelo, Texas, brought with it a chill that went beyond the winter air. Michael, a steadfast airman with dreams as vast as the Texas skies, suddenly disappeared. What happened to him? The answer to this question was not only shocking, but challenged the thin line between sanity and madness. A wedding reception planned by Michael's family in Maine was set for January 16, 2005, to celebrate the union. However, just days before their scheduled visit, Wendy reported to Michael's family that he had gone missing. She stated that after she'd taken her sons to visit her parents, she returned home, and Michael was nowhere to be found, though his truck and cell phone were left behind. As days passed, the initial concern grew into fear. The search for Michael Severance intensified, transforming the quaint town of San Angelo into the epicenter of a gripping mystery. The investigation, initially met with routine procedures, soon spiraled into a complex web of deceit. The clues pieced together to reveal a narrative ripped from the pages of a crime novel. The records for Michael's cell phone showed that he had a number of calls from a female. Could Michael be having an affair? But it turned out this was just an old friend. The investigation into Michael's whereabouts began as a routine missing persons case, but quickly morphed into something far more ominous. With each passing day, the evidence began to point towards a reality that was difficult to comprehend. Wendy Mae Davidson now found herself at the center of speculation. Her reactions to Michael's disappearance were puzzling, if not outright alarming. Instead of the desperate concern one might expect from a partner, her demeanor hinted at something more complex, sometimes conflicting, a mixture of detachment and calculated concern that raised questions. Was it a manifestation of guilt? The next day after Michael's disappearance, she filed for divorce. She also got a restraining order against him. She explained it was her parents' idea, and she was worried that Michael could take her son away from her. The San Angelo police subsequently interviewed Wendy. She claimed that Michael had been heavily drinking due to his anxiety about returning to combat, and mentioned that he had contemplated deserting his military duties. She said when she last saw him the day before, he was apprehensive about his next military deployment because he was afraid that something bad was going to happen. And he kept saying, "Those guys that go over to Canada, it would be so easy just to go to Canada." She also suggested that the combination of familial and professional responsibilities was overwhelming her husband. He began using caffeine pills due to his 3-hour commute to and from work. "I was busy. I was in the middle of trying to run this clinic I had just opened, taking care of 2 little babies," Wendy said. "The only thing that I noticed that changed with Mike was he was having a very hard time driving back and forth to Abilene every day. I did notice that every afternoon he was drinking, but then I noticed he was using caffeine pills. At the time, I didn't realize there was an issue, but looking back, obviously there was a problem. That's not normal." When Michael disappeared, he was on leave, delaying the start of an official investigation by the Office of Special Investigations until he was due back at the base. His failure to return marked him as AWOL, allowing OSI to spearhead an investigation into his desertion. Given OSI's status as a branch of the U.S. military, it operates with different rules compared to civilian police forces, enabling it to secure authorization to install a tracking device on Davidson's vehicle. The logic was that if Wendy suggested Michael could be deserting, she might also be aiding him to hide and could lead them to his location. On January 24, 2005, the Air Force launched an investigation into Michael's absence after he did not report back from his leave. Wendy's computers were seized, and the investigation uncovered that she had conducted online searches about passing polygraph tests and also Googled decomposition of a body in water. Wendy explained her online search as an effort to gather information while volunteers were out looking for her missing husband. The GPS tracker on Wendy's car revealed her regular visits to a ranch in northern Tom Green County, about 20 miles outside of San Angelo, Texas, where the couple was living. On January 15, 2005, she was spotted trying to access the ranch, but was denied entry. Confronted about these visits, particularly about the ranch's pond, Wendy's response was notably evasive and defensive. After her police interview, Wendy informed her brother, Marshall Davidson, then a game warden, that she had found Michael dead in their living room and admitted to placing his body in the pond at 4-7's ranch. Fearing a family member had murdered him, she dumped the body in a stock pond on the ranch of a family friend. Her brother said, "Wendy, I'm a cop. You can't be telling me this." He was shocked, but Wendy swore she hadn't killed Michael. She said she knew family members hated her husband and thought one of them had murdered him. In a panic, she got rid of the body to save one of her family members from getting into trouble. Her brother promised to call an attorney. Contrary to Wendy's expectations of him seeking legal advice, he contacted the authorities to disclose what Wendy had confessed. Wendy said, "My parents drove up, and me and my brother were telling them everything that happened, which was that I had found him dead and dumped his body in the pond. The next day, Michael's body was found submerged in the pond, weighed down with more than 140 pounds of items, including a boat anchor, car parts, tires, wheel rim, and cinder blocks, and it was determined he had been stabbed 41 times. This gruesome finding catapulted the case into the realm of murder, shattering any remaining illusions of a simple disappearance. The autopsy concluded that Michael had been sedated with veterinary tranquilizers before being stabbed posthumously. He died from acute drug intoxication caused by drugs used to euthanize animals. Eddie Howard, the Tom Green County Justice of the Peace at the time, said these were post-mortem cuts to allow the release of gases that typically accumulate in decomposing bodies. Rage is hitting, stabbing, or poking one spot. It's more localized. These were spread out. As the evidence unfolded, so did the layers of Wendy's psyche. The cocktail of drugs in Michael's system was traced back to Wendy's veterinary clinic. This chilling detail painted a picture of premeditation, suggesting a level of emotional detachment and calculated planning that was difficult to reconcile with the image of a caring veterinarian. As details of the case emerged, there was disbelief that Wendy could be capable of such a crime. She was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of tampering with evidence in October 2006. She pleaded no contest to the charges. One of her attorneys, Melvin Gray, said taking the no contest plea, in which a defendant does not admit guilt, will allow Davidson to go forward with her appeal. There are real issues as to who committed the murder, Gray said. After facing charges, Wendy's defense filed a motion to exclude evidence collected via her car's tracking device, arguing it was unlawfully obtained. Legally, law enforcement is required to obtain a court order to place a tracking device on someone's vehicle. The prosecution maintained that Michael Severance's AWOL status justified the permissions and approvals for the use of tracking devices. The judge ruled in favor of the prosecution, deeming the use of the tracker lawful and allowing the evidence it provided to be used in court. When the judge declared the evidence admissible, Wendy collapsed onto the courtroom floor and sobbed for several minutes, while one of her attorneys attempted to console her. The final chapter of this harrowing story was about to be written in the courtroom. Wendy maintained her innocence, insisting she discovered Michael already dead and suspected a family member was responsible. Wendy's mother had been recorded saying about Michael, "I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like him, never did, never will." A police search of Wendy's clinic revealed records indicating she had administered a large dose of phenobarbital to a dog. The dog's owner stated that the dog was not injected with the drug. The evidence was damning. The use of veterinary drugs to sedate Michael and the calculated attempts to cover up the crime. Wendy confessed to being involved in the disposal of Michael's body, making the precise cuts and transporting it to the pond, yet denied any involvement in his death. "I knew air made bodies float, so I decided to make holes in the body, vent holes so that air could escape," she said. Wendy rolled the body into a big cardboard box. She couldn't lift it into the back of the truck, so she devised a ramp out of a couple of boards and put them on the tailgate. Her sons were both asleep. She put them into the car seats, and in the flatbed was her dead husband. She took a fishing line and a knife and drove to the pond in the middle of the night. She put the cinder blocks on the handles on the cardboard box and pushed it down the hill. As soon as the cardboard box hit the water, it disintegrated. She took the weights and tied them to the body. Initially facing a potential sentence ranging from 9 to 99 years, Wendy was ultimately sentenced to 25 years in prison through a plea agreement. Michael's younger brother said after the trial, "Although we're happy with the outcome, we're still deeply saddened. No amount of punishment can bring him back to us." Wendy was denied parole in 2019. In their decision, the board declared that the offender poses a continuing threat to public safety. "I did not kill him," Wendy declared in an interview from prison. "I want my side of the story. I want people to know what did and didn't happen. I did what I did. I think it was horrible. I think that I made a bad choice. There were better choices to be made. But I still didn't kill him." She said, "What I did was horrible. There's no excuse. I mean, I might have had crazy reasons in my head, but there's no excuse." Despite her conviction, Wendy doesn't consider herself a victim. She said, "I think my husband was a victim. I think my children were victims. I think Mike's family are victims." She has been estranged from her children, who were 2 and 5 years old at the time of her incarceration, and has not seen them since. While Wendy is serving her prison sentence, her 2 children have been placed under the guardianship of her parents. A local court stated that there was no credible evidence that increased contact with Wendy would be in the children's best interests. It is beyond dispute that Davidson murdered minor child's father and subsequently attempted to cover up this egregious crime. Among other things, increased contact with the children would be only to their detriment and not to their benefit. Wendy's release date is set for 2031. She is next eligible for parole in 2024. Do you believe that Wendy didn't murder her husband? If not, why did she do it? Was the sentence fair? Tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you for joining me on True Crime Case Files. To my viewers, your thirst for understanding these complex narratives keeps me driven. Please, share your thoughts in the comments. For more deep dives into the challenging mysteries and captivating true crime stories, subscribe to my channel. In the next episode, I'll uncover another chilling case that awaits its turn in the spotlight. Not to miss it, hit the bell for notifications and be part of the journey through the unexplored paths of true crime. See you next time.